Okay, hello and welcome everybody. Tanya here with New Earth Consciousness, and I'm here with Michelle Oulette. I'm saying that right, yes?
Oulette.
Ouellette, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I never asked you how to pronounce your last name. Welcome. Thanks for being here, and we're going to talk about your journey into healing work and the two different modalities that you have come across that you use with your clients. So tell us about your journey and what drew you into the healing arts.
Yeah, thank you, Tanya. Thank you for having me, and hello, everyone. So my journey with the healing arts began as a child. I grew up in a church type of community setting that was known as the Teachings of the Ascended Masters. So for me, the art of internal alchemy has been something that I have really seen and witnessed in the adults around me and their varying relationships to that belief system. And I am, my parents left that church when I was 2, actually, but stayed close to the teachings. So I didn't grow up inside of us, the church community, in that really like nuclear way, but I have always been surrounded by spiritual practice. And it wasn't until I was a teenager and went to public high school that I really realized what Western culture was, because I was so steeped inside of a spiritual subculture, which really bridged the Western alchemical, like Gnostic teachings with the Eastern teachings around internal alchemy.
Wow, interesting. So you definitely had a very unique upbringing.
I did.
Right? Like how big was can I ask you where you were from? Where did you live during this time?
Yeah, I'm from Montana, from southwestern Montana, near the north entrance of Yellowstone Park.
Mm-hmm. So how big was the community?
So this community, Church Universal and Triumphant, is the name that it used to have. It really had its like heyday in the like 70s and 80s, at which point it was international. But by the time that I was born, the church was really really disbanding. The people that led it were one of them passed away, and they're both passed away at this point. But yeah, it was like having symptoms of Alzheimer's, and so the church community that was in Montana was at the tops, like I would say around like 5,000 people, but by the time that I was born, it was kind of dwindling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you had this kind of had this foundation. Now, so from there, of course, then encountering the Western culture that you saw, and just kind of how it probably, I mean, how did that feel? Was it just kind of like a slap in the face, or, I mean, was it jarring? Like, what was that experience like? What did you see?
Yeah, it was really interesting to kind of go into a space or a collective field of consciousness where the veil was not as thin. So what I grew up in was what I consider to be energetic fields that were of a very high frequency. You know, not to say that this community didn't have its own like ups and downs and humanness, but I have had like experiences with fairies and beings like that when I was a child, and I equate a lot of that to the belief structure that I was um, acclimated to that wasn't creating this like separation between that world and our world. And and so I know that was kind of like a big one to drop,
Yeah. But
but
that's, I mean, how else would you just, I mean, that's the way you have to describe it, right? So
mhm.
when as a young an adult, did you have this feeling of like, oh yeah, um, people don't see the world as I do, and so
It
were
was
you aware of that?
actually, yeah, it was actually kind of a more of a falling asleep process for myself. And,
Interesting.
coming of age and coming into my selfhood, around the age of like 12, and
Hmm.
like how that happens, I actually had a strong experience of rejecting my upbringing in a way, not like the magic necessarily, but I did want to be normal and I wanted to fit in
Hmm.
and have, just kind of more regular thoughts and cares and worries of a 12-year-old in middle school going into high school.
Yeah.
Um, and so, what I would say is that it was like, what I really believe in a concept of like the veil of forgetfulness, where it's like we go into these higher states of consciousness and then it's like it all makes sense. And then we go back down, and then it's like we kind of forget that we had those aha moments. It's like we can remember, but at the same time it's like what's real now is the density that we're experiencing. So I feel like I had this experience as a child of being at a very high frequency, high density, and I had a twin sister too. I have a twin
Mhm.
sister, and so I also think that having that reflection
Mhm.
of someone who's at that same stage of development, like in that magical place with you, I think that that really, I think that all of our souls come here intentionally with exactly the tools that we need to make it through our soul plan for this incarnation. And I feel like, um, yeah, I feel like having those foundations for me to actually kind of reawaken in
Mhm.
my path later on, like once I was an adult. And that for me started around like 17, 18, 19. I started to reawaken into my magic and into my spiritual connection, that is like for me very visceral and very like experiential.
Yeah, yeah, it's not just a concept or theory or book learning. It's really um, you live in the world of direct experience, right? It's not. It's a lived experience. So that's interesting. Like I would say, yeah, you're unique in the sense that when people, yeah, children, we have all this magic, right? And then of course, yeah, the veil comes down, and usually around the age 12, 13, I'm watching my son kind of go through it right now. and but yeah, for you to kind of reawaken again at such a young age, I mean 17, 18, for me it wasn't really not until, I mean, I didn't have a spiritual upbringing, but for me it didn't happen until like my early to mid 20s,
Mm-hmm.
um so can you describe what that reawakening, I mean, felt like? Was it just kind of just bubbled up from the inside of just like, maybe there's more to this world, like maybe there's some truth to um, what I already know or that I've buried. That's just, yeah, I'm just curious, like what was that like?
Mm-hmm. For me, it was multi-layered. It felt very guided. Like to
Mhm.
me, looking back now and having the connection that I have with my guides and angels, I can really see how there were specific experiences that I had that were like activations. like, and I would believe that they were DNA activations of my true like soul memory.
Mhm.
And they were triggered by different circumstances. Like I can remember one that was actually triggered by going into a deep state of surrender through experiencing a traumatic experience, and then having just kind of an enlightenment experience. And
Mhm.
one Japanese word for it that I enjoy is called kensho, and
Mm.
that's like a taste of enlightenment. It's like a touch. It's like where it's like a temporary experience of the enlightenment state. So I actually had that. Um, I believe that was actually when I was 16. And then, of course, I fell back asleep after that. But it was like within that moment, it was like the luminosity within all particles, like not
Mm.
differentiated between particles, and just like this experience of like golden light and luminosity and just immense love and gratitude and just, um, yeah, just this the experience of oneness between myself and all beings, and like just this really deep understanding of like why would we ever want to hurt each other or do
Mm.
anything that would ever harm any other being at any point. And I remember I had that experience, and it just was like, now I'm an experienced meditator, so I've reached that state through meditation, but at that point it was spontaneous.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then I remember walking out into the living room, and there was like a show playing on the TV at my aunt's house that was like violence. And I just remember like just feeling it so deeply in my heart of like how we are being like kept at a suboptimal state through like what we are consuming and what's being fed to us. And that the true state of life and beingness is unconditional love and compassion and interconnection and luminosity. And so that was like a really powerful experience for me that definitely changed the trajectory of my path. Um, yeah.
That resonates so deeply for me. I feel like in my awakening experience, it was similar in that I could not, my physical body, my mind, I don't know, but mind, body, soul, I could not tolerate even gossip. If somebody was gossiping, it felt like it was painful to listen to, like it was literally like, this is, and then and then we fall back to sleep, right? Then it's like we have these moments of awakening where it's like so clear of, I mean, I want to call it right and wrong, but like just what is truth and what is false.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it is an interesting thing how we kind of we our sensitivity, it's like we wake up, fall asleep, wake up, fall asleep, and it's like, I don't know if that's kind of, you know to me the spiritual path has felt like following sort of the trail of the breadcrumbs. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
uh we I think we know at a deep level, at a collective level, it's like there's so many things that are out of whack. We know it, right? We're seeing it, we're living it, it's all around us all the time, of what's maybe not the highest possible potential for us humans. um so I feel like, and I mean, you can interject here, but to me it just feels like it's something that we really, really know deep, deep down inside, that we're here to really change the the timeline, to change the path of evolution for humanity going forward. It's like, yeah, of course, violent movies, like, why do we watch them? Like simple things like that. Why are we consuming that? Like, at what point do we just say, okay, no more, like, turn it off? So I know I'm digressing a little bit. I want to focus in on your work.
Mm-hmm.
So so you've had these spiritual experiences, and then tell me how you were drawn to these two modalities, and you can share them.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a windy path for sure, and I resonate with this concept of following breadcrumbs. But what led me to these two modalities that I practice now, one of them is called angelic earth resonance, and the other one is called the total knowledge technique. And they both are very transformational quantum healing modalities that work directly with angelic consciousness and angelic frequency to achieve slightly different results within the two bodies of work. Go more deeply in to each of them, but I actually found both of them through living where I live, which is Prescott, Arizona. So both of the founders of these bodies of work live here in Prescott, and I equate that to the angelic energy that's coming from the land here. That there's actually you could call it like a vortex. Prescott is actually like only an hour and a half away from Sedona, which is like where, it's the land of the vortexes, and,
Mhm.
it's really the ley lines, the kundalini energy of the planet and that spirit essence. And so there's a, there's an energetic space for angelic frequency to come in Prescott. And so I lived in Montana for 18 years, and then I moved to Prescott, Arizona to go to college. And I've lived here now in Prescott, where I am, for about 8 years.
Mhm.
And I am actually almost 10, almost 10 years now. Um, but so both of these modalities were developed here in Prescott. Well, the total knowledge technique has been developed in various locations, but
Mm.
there's just been this like thread of synchronicity that has guided people that are doing this type of work to this area. And so I feel like I was also drawn into this area through circumstances, but more so through the magnetism of the vortex of this area, which is of an angelic frequency.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting. Can you so how does this technique work? Well, if I can ask that. I
Yes.
feel like some of these modalities that are out there, it's kind of like I feel like a lot of people like, "Well, I don't know how it works, it just works." So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you can answer however you'd like. Maybe you do understand.
Yeah, so let's tune into angelic earth resonance first,
Yeah.
since there are, separate modalities with separate kind of protocols. But
Mhm.
with angelic earth resonance, essentially what the practitioner is doing is creating a sanctified energetic field for raising the frequency and the vibration to bridge consciousness between the earthly 3D realm and then the higher dimensions where our angelic guides and the angels and elemental spirits and all of these beings that resonate with the frequency of unconditional love and help us to heal, they can access through these sanctified fields of energy. And so the way that that's done is through what's called going into presence. And going into presence is going into a state of surrender to divine love and to the highest frequency of source consciousness. And so it looks like going into a deep state of meditation very quickly. And what that looks like on a physiological level is actually the nadi of the body, which are like the meridian lines, which there's like the central channel and then the Ida and the Pingala, but then it's like roots, like tree branches, through the body. And so with the nadi of the body, they become illuminated. And so when you are holding presence, you are holding light in your body, you're holding prana in your nadi, and you're becoming basically a channel for prana. You're becoming a fountain of prana where through this presence, through this deeper state, like more light is coming through, and it's coming through from source, because there's an infinite amount of prana. There's an infinite amount of this unconditional loving life force energy. And so when you go into presence, you become a vessel for prana and love to come forth. And so within angelic earth resonance, you are holding space for someone. It can be done in different ways. It can be done one-on-one as table work. It can be done over distance, quantumly through the quantum field, over like a Zoom call, or even without technology. And it can also be done in large groups. And so essentially you're creating that space for this light of source to enter into the 3D realm. And then what happens after that is like a dancing with this energy. And what comes through after that are different instructions directly from source. As the practitioner, you're fully in a state of surrender. So you're not really like, oh, they look like their back is a little out of place over here, so I'm going to work here. You fully just go into a state of feeling. And actually, with my hands, I feel a lot of magnetism. And because there is that surplus of that pranic life force energy, it has that electromagnetic quality. So it's like my hands will be drawn over specific places in their field. And then, as that energy builds, it's like the different guides and angels that are part of this it's like my team of guides and angels is present, and their team of guides and angels are present, including ancestors. And I believe that that's all within their multidimensional being. Like, we're not really calling upon anything that's outside of their energy field. It's a part of them on a multidimensional level, but it might be a resonance that's very angelic or very fey, very fairy. And then light language will come through and will express those energies in ways that are very activating and very viscerally felt in the physical body, and communicate directly with the soul.
Mm-hmm. And so when clients come to you, what are the issues that they bring? What kind of issues do you address with that modality?
So this modality is the benefits are far reaching and wide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So essentially, I attract clients mostly through demonstrating the body of work, and it can be something that is really powerful just to witness, because it does activate the kundalini energy. And so the body that you're witnessing is, moving by itself. It's having a kundalini awakening response, which has its own specific indicators, right? Like the auto wave, or just like different ways that the body will move when the kundalini energy starts awakening. And so I know of the kundalini energy as the internal alchemist, and it's the innate inner healer. So in a sense, it's like spontaneous, miraculous healings can happen in any realm of life. And so what's pretty guaranteed is that the spine will change. And so it, like, essentially it kind of, when you go into that high frequency place, physical matter becomes less solid. It's actually, you can actually make changes to things where if you're in the 3D dense physical reality, it's like there's no access, but you're going into the holographic state
Right.
of reality, the world of appearances versus the world of form, as they would say in like Tibetan Buddhism.
Mhm.
And so when we're there, it's like I'm not really trying to heal anything specific. I
Mhm.
invite people to come with intentions and then for them to release and give those intentions to spirit and surrender to the higher intelligence
Yeah.
of what really needs to happen, because my belief is that, you know, sometimes like you can address a physical issue, but if the root cause of it is emotional,
Mhm.
then you can waste a lot of time and energy trying to resolve something that's not at the root, you know, like
Yeah.
you're just like pruning, constantly pruning it, right? And yeah, so I think that the angels and the guides, they actually do have access to that information and can guide and facilitate and assist those specific releases of energy, of stuff, of trapped energy in the body and the blueprint, without our consciousness needing to really be too involved.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I am also an intuitive psychic medium, and so a lot of times in sessions with me, I will give some channeled advice on how to kind of support
Mhm.
the healing process.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and that kind of explains why, so-called miracles happen, right? It really is that what appears to be solid it actually really isn't, and it can switch in, faster than the speed of light. I've seen that happen where it's just, um, yeah, accessing a higher state of consciousness. Um, when we're so attached to the physical, it does feel like, oh, it has to take a long time, or there has to be this long drawn out process to healing. But um, yeah, I can see where it's kind of like certain frequencies when they're aligned in just the right way. And when you're working with higher intelligences, such as, angelic beings or our ancestors, that hold so much wisdom, that um, those those changes, happen in these so-called other dimensions, but it's all one, so it's interesting. And so tell us about the second body of work.
Mm-hmm. So the second body of work is called the total knowledge technique. And it goes even deeper into kind of this realm of what we're talking about. Um, it is a body of work for medical intuitive healing with angels.
Mhm.
And so within that body of work, a lot of times people do come with very specific ailments that they want to resolve.
Mm.
And so it does look like miracle healing work. And it is, because, you know, who's to say it's not miraculous?
Yeah.
But as we unpack these miraculous healings, we start to understand a different way to approach reality, and then reality responds in a different way. So it's like we can become, I believe all of us as humans, we have the potential to become masters of miracles. Like we can create miracles consciously, you know? And so going a little bit more into that body of work, it is you go into a similar state of presence. I would say the way that the angels really come online, or that you can create that direct contact with the angels, is through um yeah, going into that electromagnetic state that is um, yeah, it is the nadis being enlightened and enlivened, and you just go into a deeper state. And for me, I go into a deeper state whenever I do any kind of this work. It's like as soon as I step into my healing room, it's like that state almost comes over me. Or,
Mhm,
you know, a lot of it has to do with our intention
mhm.
and our rituals, right? So it's like I say a similar invocation each time, and the morphic field within me and around me knows that okay, I'm going into that space.
Right.
So reality sort of like rearranges itself for that space, that doorway to open into that higher dimensional consciousness, which is also just a different brainwave state on a physical level.
Yeah.
And so within this body of work, we use the quantum field and quantum mechanics in order to adjust the blueprint of it can be a human or an animal, or you can really use the total knowledge technique on anything,
Mm.
but let's kind of zoom in on like a human client and what that would look like. Specifically with this body of work, there's a specific technique and protocol for what my teacher, Dr. Anthony Cahill, calls a roadmap. And the understanding is that the quantum field, the morphic field, is responsive to our intention. And we create grooves within the morphic field when we do something repeatedly. So basically, there's this understanding that are fields and fields and fields of angels, that there is this abundance of angelic frequency, and they want nothing more than to align us as humans with our highest potential, our highest timeline, and our highest expression of well-being,
Mhm.
so that we can experience the joy and the pleasure of the beingness of being incarnated, which is our birthright and what we're really supposed to be here experiencing.
Yeah.
So they want to do everything they can to help us bridge that gap, but they can't reach us without us reaching out towards them as well. We have to create the bridge for that connection to take place and for them to intervene. They actually intervene in the human realm through us.
Yeah, that's so I love that you explained that so clearly. It really landed for me this idea of the morphic field and our intention through our words when we speak, that there's something that's happening, there's a shift. Um, a teacher that I worked with for a long time, um, she spoke to this, and it made sense to me, that she would often say, "Don't ever change the words to what I'm teaching you." And it's like, I always thought, "Well, why? Why does that make a difference?" And now I can understand why, where it's like, well, it's almost like it's coded, right? It's a CODE, right? It's a coded word or phrase that, just like anything, when you're exercising a muscle, right? It just gets stronger and stronger, right? It gets more clear, that connection is more direct, like a mantra or anything else. It's activating something within the field. So I really, really love that. Um, and it just so resonates, what you're saying about that we are the ones to create the bridge. It's not like, I think, sometimes there can be, I feel like we're at that point in humanity where it's like, okay, it's time to graduate to the next level. We've been in infancy, right? Of like, oh, we want someone to take care of us, have someone come save us or whatever, whether we put our faith into a belief system, or, a certain spiritual figure or whatever, to where actually the real work is about us cultivating that relationship directly ourselves. And, so that's really, you really put it so beautifully, really amazing. Um, how can, um, how can people work with you?
Um, Well, I do offer one-on-one sessions with clients, and
Mhm,
a lot of times I really like to work with people over the course of a few weeks to a few months and create unique packages for people to really experience a dramatic shift from kind of the entrainment to this energy,
mhm,
which can be with working with me. It can be a mixture of the multiple modalities that I practice, and or it can be, really specific to the client's needs. And so I always like to start with a consultation, and then I receive guidance on
mhm.
exactly what that will look like.
Yeah.
And so I work with people one on one, and at this time I just do my booking through my telephone. I am my own booking person, and yeah, through my social media is a great way to connect with me. And in addition to that, I also am in collaboration with a yoga and healing arts studio here in Prescott called Earth and Herbs. And so I offer a lot of community events through this space, group ceremonies where I do bring in these angelic energies, these bodies of work that I've learned and that I'm,
Mhm,
synthesizing into my unique offering, as well as retreats. So that's what I'm really stepping into now, is being a retreat leader. And I've led 2 retreats this year. My first retreat was in Mount Shasta, and my second retreat was in Sedona. And now we're going to Yalapa, Mexico, in April of 2025.
mhm,
So I really enjoy the retreat container for working with people, because the way that you're able to create a unified field within a extended period of time. It's a short period of time, but it's a focused period of time where you're not going back to, whatever distractions that there are for long enough that we can really, really co-create a very powerful shift and a very powerful, what I would call a quantum leap, or an entering into a new higher timeline. Because once you're entrained with this really high angelic frequency, you anchor that into your field, and we intend that that's anchored into the field, so that when we come together like this, we're doing this work for ourselves and for the land, but also for all of the relations of everyone who's there, that
mhm.
we can just spread this new consciousness, this presence, this beingness, this aliveness within the present moment, within connection with nature, and all of these elements that come together in order to produce miraculous healing and transformation of the consciousness into our true selves.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. So, yeah, so anybody that's watching this, if you're wanting to get in touch, either book a consult or sign up for a retreat or her packages, you can find her on Facebook. And is there any other platform that people can contact you through?
Yeah, people can also contact me through Instagram. My handle on Instagram is origami.wings. And yeah, a lot of information is available there about the retreats, and links for accessing those websites, and um, yeah, Facebook as well. Social media is really a great place to start right now, and I'm, yeah, very receptive to like being reached out to directly via private message and
Mhm.
going there.
Awesome. Beautiful. Um, yeah, so definitely check out her Instagram, Facebook. That retreat sounds amazing. This work sounds incredible. It's very exciting, and thank you so much, Michelle, for being here today with me, and for those that are watching or are catching the replay. So, sending much love and thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tanya. Really appreciate
All
all that.
right. Yeah, thanks. All right.